Everyone can just take their seats. We're going to begin. My name is Anthony Wilson. I'm the City Clerk for the City of Cambridge, and it's a pleasure to welcome you all to the 2022 State of the City Address. Tonight is a very proud moment for me personally, and I think for the city and all of us seated here. This is the first State of the City Address in 3 years. That's more than 2 years since the start of COVID. This is the first time that many of us have had the opportunity to really be together for the governance of our city. And this really marks a moment that we can all look back on with pride, that we can spend time doing what our forefathers did, which was govern together, actually together. I want to take this moment to thank the city councilors and to recognize the city councilors and school committee members who are present today. Councilor Dennis Carlone, Councilor Mark McGovern, I believe I saw Councilor Burhan Azim, Councilor Nolan, Vice Mayor Mallon, who's behind me. I see Councilor Paul Toner in the back. I also see several school committee members. Councilor Creedy Bombi, Councilor Alfred Fantini, Councilor Jose Luis Rojas Villarreal, Councilor David Weinstein, Councilor Aisha Wilson, School Committee Member Anais Killian, Noriel Van de Graaf, and Vice Chair Rachel Weinstein. I also see Senator Sal DiDomenico in the audience joining us today from the state capitol. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing while I call the CRLS students, Sabrina Urbanik, Lainey Kerr, and Eli Regina, to sing the Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we have at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That was beautiful. Now, it is with great pleasure that I introduce you you may be seated. Now, it's now with great pleasure that I introduce to you a man that really most people in Cambridge know. He's dedicated more than 30 years to the city, to its residents, to ensuring that the city government provide the best service to the residents of this city, of any city in the Commonwealth. City Manager Louis D. Pasquale.
Good evening, everybody. And let me just start off by saying it's great to see so many faces in City Hall again, so welcome. I'll start off by just saying, first of all, Mayor Siddiqui, councilors, distinguished guests, fellow residents, and of course my wife Cheryl, thank you for all being here. And I do want to recognize also our state partners, our state reps, and our state senators who really play a key role in the success we have. This is my last State of the City address, as I am retiring in July. I was sworn into city manager in 2016 and have worked for the city for over 45 years. I've had the privilege to work with so many incredible city employees during my career. Their dedication and passion are second to none, which has never been more evident than during the COVID-19 pandemic. We owe city employees a debt of gratitude for their efforts to keep our community safe and ensure that the city continue to provide services and programs critical to our community. I want to personally thank each employee for the work you do every day and for your commitment to making Cambridge the best city it can be, and as I often say, the best city anywhere, period. The past 2 years have been unprecedented times for local governments, and I am proud of how our city, the city council, and our community have worked together to slow the spread of the virus, get people vaccinated, and support each other in so many different ways. The city has a thoughtful approach to the pandemic through collaboration and partnership with our community and regional partners. We have launched and maintained initiatives to aid Cambridge residents, businesses, and nonprofits through the COVID-19 pandemic. I will not describe all the efforts undertaken tonight, but we have made enormous strides as a community, and we have access to the tools needed to protect ourselves and our community moving forward. Over 93% of our residents have at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. I want to repeat that, 93%. And 77% are fully vaccinated. We have built the necessary public health communications, testing, and vaccine infrastructure that will allow us to scale operations quickly to meet any emerging need in Cambridge, and hopefully we don't have to do that. Our police, fire, and emergency services are second to none, and I cannot thank our public safety staff for the commitment and services they've had for our residents in our city. I want to give a special thanks to Chief Mahoney and the members of the Cambridge Fire Department who've worked tirelessly with Pro-EMS and the Public Health Department to provide free PCR testing and free vaccines and boosters to people who live and work in Cambridge and to help keep our community safe from COVID-19. I also want to thank our amazing community partners that has assisted us through this pandemic. And there's so many to name, but I'm going to name a few, especially Cambridge Side, Trinity Properties, St. John's Evangelist Church, St. Paul's AME, Reservoir Church, Harvard University, MIT, the city's COVID-19 Expert Advisory Panel, the Cambridge Health Alliance, the Cambridge Redevelopment Authority. These are just a few of the businesses, educational, faith, and nonprofits partners who've played an essential part in supporting our community. When COVID-19 was first emerging in our region, our Public Health Department, our Police Department, our Public Works Department, and our Human Services Department quickly developed a plan to build and open a temporary emergency homeless shelter and quarantine facility at the War Memorial. This shelter has since evolved into a new transition wellness center for unhoused residents at Spalding Rehabilitation Center. I especially want to recognize former Public Health Officer Claude Jacob and former Police Commissioner Dr. Branville Barr Jr. Well before the state provided guidance, they began advocating for the creation of a COVID-19 support system for our unhoused community, including quarantine and isolation facilities. I also want to thank our current Public Health Officer, Derek Neal, and our Commissioner Ello, and our Assistant City Manager, Ellen Seminoff, for their continued leadership on helping our unhoused community. And of course, I need to thank Dr. Asad Sayah, our Commissioner of Public Health, who has been a critical partner and advisor to me in the city on all issues related to COVID-19, and then probably a little more things as well. Asad, thank you for your partnership and friendship. Because the city has been a collaborative team, I just want to go over to some of the things that we're really proud of. The city has administered over 275,000 COVID-19 tests through our community PCR testing program. We've distributed approximately 90,000 rapid antigen tests. provided over 16,000 vaccine and booster shots through city and public health-run clinics, supported families in applying for COVID-19 related relief, and connected to city and community services, provided cultural appropriate approach around COVID updates, testing, and vaccination in multiple languages. These are just a few highlights of the type of support the city has provided our residents. And of course, we also at this time must acknowledge the loss that families across the world and in Cambridge have experienced due to COVID-19. However, we have not stopped as a city, even in the midst of the pandemic. We have added over 40 new positions in our 21 and 22 budget, demonstrating the city's commitment to important goals and priorities and highlighting the importance of our fiscal policies and practices. The city's practice of working to maintain sufficient reserves, closely monitoring revenue and expenditures, and carefully managing budget growth is directly related to our ability to effectively address COVID-19 crisis and continue to expand programs and implement new initiatives while also maintaining the fiscal flexibility and certain level of predictability. And I can't bring that home enough. We have provided the funds because we were prepared for something. We didn't think it was going to be this, but we were prepared. Maintaining the city's unique and notable distinction of achieving a AAA rating from each of the major rating agencies reaffirms our fiscal approach and puts us in a strong position to continue major initiatives and new investments. I am extremely proud of what we have accomplished over the years. The collaboration among staff, city council, and the community have resulted in operating capital budgets that represent our values and priority. And I'm just going to give you a few. The purchase of approximately 4 acres of open space from Buckingham Brown and Nichols School. Investments in environmental initiatives and infrastructure, including municipal building sustainability, water and sewer system upgrades, an expanded tree canopy, major transportation corridor and street safety improvements, and the implementation of the bicycle network plan. Expanded investments in service and initiative for our residents included school funding, expanding early education and human service programs, funding and services to support our unhoused community, funding for initiatives in public safety, and investments in improving equity and inclusion efforts both within the city and throughout our community. Commitment to increase operational capital funds in Cambridge Public Schools, and investing, and I say this very proudly, over $500 million in the development of 3 new schools in the city of Cambridge, all supported by bonds in the taxpayers of the city. Introducing property taxes as a funding source for affordable housing. This was part of a commitment to significantly increase city funding to address our affordable housing crisis. Since FY20 and through FY23, the city has budgeted $40 million in property tax revenue to support the Affordable Housing Trust. Using 25% of building permit revenue as a source of funding for affordable housing, which was combined with the Community Preservation Act, we have resulted in significant increases in funding over the past several years. The city has provided over $278 million to the Affordable Housing Trust. I have to say that again because we should all be very proud of it. The city has provided over $278 million to the Affordable Housing Trust to create and preserve affordability housing in Cambridge. Also, a major important piece of this was including $34.5 million specifically to help preserve the affordability of 500 units of housing in Fresh Pond Apartments. And I know how important that was to all, but especially the work the mayor did in that area. It is important that a healthy balance between residential and commercial development continues so we can ensure new revenues for affordable housing efforts and maintain affordable homeowners' real estate taxes, especially for many of our longtime senior residents. Approximately 15% of the total housing stock is affordable housing subject to long-term deed restrictions, an incredible number. I'll say this very loud and clear. In my opinion, no city in the Commonwealth is as committed to affordable housing in Cambridge is, and I think the numbers can speak for that. In addition to creating and preserving affordable housing, the city manager's housing liaison, in collaboration with Human Services and Community Development, works to respond to housing concerns and crises reported by residents. Staff this year responded to more than 300 individuals who sought information on many housing-related situations. 90 residents were assisted with ongoing intensive case management from the Housing Stabilization Advocate, and 25 received a deeper level of support and were assisted with successfully securing new, permanent, affordable housing, while others were able to maintain their current housing because of the services and prevention provided by the city staff. Housing liaison staff also implemented proactive initiatives to inform residents of services and resources and prevent concerns from becoming a crisis. This included Housed in Cambridge information to Open Doors campaign that was launched in April of 2021. The city's longstanding commitment to our affordable housing efforts and the use of strategies to advance our housing goals has helped thousands of residents with some amazing results. Much has been accomplished, but there's more to do. Our city's success is a direct result of the strong and dedicated team we have to carry out the policy initiatives of the Cambridge City Council in the day-to-day operations that deliver a high quality of city services that our community expects and deserves. Excellent customer service has always been a top priority of mine. You must be able to make sure that we are providing the service our residents need. I believe that the role of government is to help all people, especially individuals and families in our community that are more at risk. This is a responsibility that my administration has taken very seriously. However, I also know the city cannot resolve every problem. We'll try, but we can't do it alone. And that's why we are so fortunate, and I'm so proud to say this, to have such incredible community partners. To all our faith leaders, nonprofit leaders, university partners, business community partners, and volunteers who make our community so amazing, thank you. You're not just our neighbors, you truly are incredible partners. I want to give a thank you to my City Managers Advisory Committee. This group was formed in 2017 and has helped me think through numerous solutions to address critical challenges facing the city. Their advice and support has been invaluable to me. I believe that providing excellent service requires that we are reaching residents whom we do not traditionally interact with. And I can't stress the importance of that. We want all residents to know what services and programs the city offers, how they can take advantage of them, and even more importantly, how they can be involved in the city's decision-making process. Delivering quality and responsive services to the public begins with having a trained and skilled workforce. We believe our leaders and managers are responsible for creating environments that support anti-racism, equity, and inclusion for all employees and all residents. Through our comprehensive learning plan and our anti-racism, equity, and inclusion initiatives, we are providing our staff with the resources and skills they need. I have issued leadership expectations, and we have created a new strategic filter to ensure key decisions are aligned with our values. Additionally, we are implementing recommendations in our workforce plan on recruitment, hiring, and promotion. These are just a few examples of how we're building staff capacity to best serve our residents, maintaining a welcome and inclusive workplace, and lead and mentor a diverse workforce. I am proud of our city departments work together to provide services to our community. For example, over the past year, through multiple departmental collaborations, we have created a new outdoor dining policy to aid our small businesses, worked on cannabis business permitting, which led to the first cannabis business opening in Cambridge, proposed amendments to the Building Energy Disclosure Ordinance, launched a disparity study on city purchasing with businesses owned by minorities, women, and veterans, expanded innovative programs to help address rodent issues on public and private properties in the city, completed the River Street redesign plans, and preparations are underway for construction to begin in the summer of 2022. Broke ground in construction of the Tobin Montessori Vassar Lane Upper School Complex, completed significant open space projects, and I really want to say we have really focused on our open space projects, and we've got a lot to be proud of. But if you take a look at what we've done at Glacken Field, the O'Connell Library Pocket Park, the Tim Toomey Park in East Cambridge, which is exceptional, and of course our new Louis D. Pasquale Universal Design Playground. We've also enhanced scholarships for low-income children, expanded college courses for Cambridge-based early childhood teachers, and began funding Head Start for full-day, full-year care, and launched the 21st Century Broadband Initiative to conduct a feasibility study to help achieve its digital equity connectivity and municipal broadband goals. This year-long initiative is well underway. As a result of the close collaboration between departments, the city advanced its What Works City certification to gold level in 2021. This is a national standard of excellence and evaluates how cities are managed and how city leaders incorporate data and evidence in their decision-making. Cambridge is one of only 14 cities to achieve this gold level certification. I want to thank everybody involved in this, because as I say, one of 14 is pretty solid. Transportation is a key element of what makes Cambridge a vibrant and lively city, and we are dedicated to taking the steps necessary to eliminate all traffic fatalities and serious injuries. Consistent with our commitment to Vision Zero, we continue to move forward efforts to make our streets safer for all users, particularly those who are the most vulnerable, such as pedestrians and cyclists. We are committed to a timely implementation of the city's bicycle network plan, as required in the Cycling Safety Ordinance adopted by the City Council. We will continue to consider input from all stakeholders in the community as the requirements of this ordinance are carried out by our departments. This year, staff created new traffic crash open data set to increase transparency and provide timely and detailed information related to crashes in our city. Also, another important area that we are working hard on to improve outcomes on is sustainability. During FY22, the City of Cambridge collaborated with the Biodiversity for a Livable Climate in Suji project to establish a 4,000 square foot Milwaukee microforest at Danahy Park. This type of microforest offers an opportunity to reestablish healthy forests in urban environments. As part of a long-term strategy to reduce flooding, the city has constructed 12 underground stormwater storage systems over the last 20 years. Why is that so important? Well, I'll just give you a little update. Collectively, these facilities can hold over 2 million gallons of stormwater. The value of this infrastructure was displayed in the first 2 weeks of July in FY22, where we saw 9 inches of rain, making it the second wettest period since 1921. Before installing these stormwater systems, such heavy rains would have caused significant flooding for sure in the Port, Baldwin, and Mid-Cambridge neighborhoods. And I'm happy to report none of that occurred. The Resilient Cambridge Plan, released in July of 2021, is based on the idea that Cambridge is built for climate of the past, and it must adapt to shifting climate of the future. The 34 strategies in the plan aim to increase physical and social resilience through 4 categories of actions: closer neighborhoods, better buildings, stronger infrastructure, and greener city. Cambridge is also collaborating on climate change issues regionally through our 15-member Metro Mayor's Climate Change Task Force, the Resilient Mission Collaborative involving 19 of the 21 river watershed communities, and the Charles River Climate Compact. In terms of climate resilient zoning, based on the task force reported complete earlier this year, staff are preparing zoning initiative petitions that will be presented to the council later this year. Additionally, the Community Development Department is working to increase access to EV charging infrastructure in residential areas. The 4 electric vehicle charging stations will be installed in 2022 to help ensure equitable distribution and access of chargers. With the world-class institutions of higher education and the science tech businesses located in our city, we want to do everything to ensure that, and I'll say this very clearly, all young people, particularly our underserved students, are prepared to take advantage of the incredible opportunities in their home city. And we continue to build upon our current STEAM initiative to enhance and expand students' access to quality learning experience from birth to adulthood. This initiative is a collaboration between Human Services, Library, and our public schools. And we have seen how STEAM programs are opening pathways and opportunities for our Cambridge residents. As part of the city's commitment to STEAM, a state-of-the-art Hive market space opened at the main library in 2021, and 900 members of the community have taken their first class. And for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to see it, I would suggest you go. It is incredible. Other ways the city supports our residents is through our Community Learning Center and the Department of Human Service programs. College Success coaches and helps students transitioning to Bunker Hill Community College and UMass to manage stress in their studies. Human Services also provided summer in-person or remote jobs for over 750 of our youths, and school year internships to over 250. In addition, the Next Up internship program for 18 and 25-year-olds is supporting more young people with their career plans. In March of 2021, the Cambridge Public Library hired the first licensed clinical social worker to begin to bridge between patrons and our agencies in the city. To support community access to critical library services, we have rolled out a plan to expand branch hours by adding over 50 hours of service per week across the library system, including increased Saturday hours and a pilot program for summer hours in the Valenti Branch Library. During the summer of '21, the Cambridge Summer Food Program provided lunches to all Cambridge children 18 and younger, regardless of family's income, at 9 school-based sites throughout the city. Additionally, the program provided dinners at Human Services basketball leagues and at public housing developments in partnership with Book Bike distribution of free books through the Agenda of Children Literacy Initiative and the Center of Families and the family markets offered by Food for Free. I am proud of the city's long supporting our small businesses, and the city over the last year has looked for additional ways during this difficult time to make sure our small businesses were part of a critical and vibrant part of the economy. In FY22, the city provided $4.6 million direct aid to our local businesses. We established the Black, Indigenous, People of Color Business Advisory Committee to provide guidance on improving programs and outreach for these businesses, and revamped the Business Diversity Directory into an interactive database that makes it easier to find and support local businesses. Last year, the city adopted the maximum personal property tax exemption by law. This allowed $10,000 exemption to provide over 1,200 businesses with some small personal property tax relief. In FY22, the exemption increased to $20,000, doubling the personal property exemption. And I want to thank the council for their leadership on this matter. Retail zoning updates have allowed new businesses to come to Cambridge, such as a new dispensary in Central Square, which also provides a valuable pop-up to retail space. As city manager, I have been incredibly fortunate to have had able to work with 3 highly collaborative mayors, and I can't thank them enough. First, Mayor Siddiqui, who I have the opportunity to work with now for 2.5 years, and I also want to recognize former Mayor Simmons and former Mayor McGovern for their support. I can't thank them enough also for their leadership, friendship, and partnership during their years as mayor. Without an open and honest partnership between the mayor, the city council, and the city administration, we would not be able to have an effective government. And that is one of the reasons we have an effective government today, is that partnership. Based on the goals and policy priorities of the city council, I will be submitting my FY23 operating and capital budget to the city council on Monday. I encourage the public to follow the upcoming budget process that will take place over the next 2 months. As you will see, the 23 budget, the city remains committed to expanding and supporting for programs and initiatives related to housing, early childhood, community infrastructure, climate effort, schools, small business community, equity and inclusion, transportation safety, and open space. In addition, the city has received $88.1 million in the American Rescue Plan Act funds, and we have committed to date $33 million to fund high-priority projects around key council priorities: homeless housing/shelters, homeless support, testing services, outreach programs, mental health assistance, job training, food insecurity, small business support, broadband and digital equity initiatives, and water infrastructure improvements. And I'm excited and looking forward to an announcement that the mayor will be making related to our ARPA funds when she comes up in a few minutes. One of the critical programs I am recommending in my 23 budget, and it's the only one I will talk about today, seeing the council has not even seen the 23 budget, is our Community Safety Department. This proposed department, which is independent of the Cambridge Police Department, will coordinate community-driven solutions to enhance safety in the community with key service programs targeted to our most vulnerable population. The Community Safety Department will be responsible for providing community services, focus on behavioral health crisis response services, and violence prevention and intervention. These initiatives will be rooted in harm reduction and trauma-informed principles grounded in the belief that all people deserve respect, autonomy, dignity, and opportunity. I also want to thank our Cambridge Police Department for being a nationally recognized and respected leader in the 21st century policing. It was an honor for me to appoint Christine Ello as Commissioner of the Cambridge Police Department. She is the first woman to lead a department since its inception in 1859, and she has a bold vision for the continued transformation of our police department to enable it to be and best serve the needs of our community and be accountable to all our residents. And again, I want to acknowledge Christine, who's the commissioner, who's over there. Plus, that gave me a chance to get a drink of water, Commissioner. Finally, a state of a city addresses opportunity to celebrate accomplishments, and I think you can see how proud I am of what we've accomplished. But it's also an opportunity to bring the community together to reaffirm our core commitments to our residents. During my first State of the City address in February of 2017, I spoke about our status as a sanctuary city. Today, our Commission on Immigrant Rights and Citizenship holds immigration legal screening clinics with the De Novo Center for Justice and Healing, providing consultations for over 290 clients in groups from more than 70 foreign countries. I want to be clear tonight, as I was in 2017. We are a sanctuary city. We will continue to support and promote safety, health, and well-being for all residents, regardless of immigration status. Cambridge is and will remain committed to being a welcoming city for all. As I have said before, our employees are our greatest asset, and I can't thank them enough. The past 2 years have clearly demonstrated that every city employee plays an essential role in our ability to carry out our goals and positively have impact on our residents' lives. Thank them again for their incredible effort and services to improve the lives of all our residents. Mayor Siddiqui, I want to personally thank you for your partnership over the past 2.5 years. We have been through a lot together, and I appreciate all the support you have shown me. To the City Council, thank you for placing your trust and confidence in me and providing me this opportunity. As a lifelong resident of Cambridge, there has been no greater honor in my life than serving the city that I love. With that, I say good night, and I look forward to hearing to Mayor Siddiqui. Thank you all very much.
Mayor Sumbul Siddiqui has lived in the city of Cambridge since the age of 2. She served on the city council for 3 terms, and she's in the midst of her 2nd term. What those numbers don't tell you is that when she assumed the office of mayor in January of 2020, that was just 4 months before the COVID-19 pandemic. She went in the office not knowing that she would go through one of the greatest challenges that the nation has seen in a century. I can tell you personally that her leadership has been integral to the city council as it has navigated these issues. Anyone who's watched more than 10 minutes of a city council meeting will know that the city council is populated by strong advocates for the residents of the city of Cambridge, but they don't always agree. Mayor Siddiqui has used diplomacy, communication to bring the disparate elements of the council together to help find consensus around the important issues for this city. It's my honor to introduce to you Mayor Sumbul Siddiqui.
We'll be doing a lot of clapping in my speech, so just a heads up. Thank you for staying. City Manager Pasquale, Vice Mayor Mallon, honorable city councilors, department heads, friends, family, and fellow Canterburyans, good evening. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight to discuss the state of the city of Cambridge. This month marks the beginning of the 3rd year of the COVID-19 pandemic, the 3rd year of our city showing resilience in the face of adversity, and the 3rd year of collective anxiety about health and safety. With that in mind, please join me for a moment of silence for the 163 residents we have lost due to the pandemic. We have set up a COVID-19 Remembrance Memorial at the main entrance of the Cambridge Cemetery as a place of peace and reflection, and I hope everyone takes the opportunity to go visit. Thank you so much to Mary Ellen Carvello from the manager's office and DPW for working closely with my office to create this space. Tonight, in the midst of these challenges, we pause to reflect on the simple question: what is the state of our city? We just heard in the city manager's remarks about the ways in which we responded and continue to respond to the extreme conditions that the last 2 years have brought to our city and our world. Our city employees never stopped providing world-class service for our residents, and I speak for my colleagues and residents across Cambridge when I say we are forever grateful for their efforts. Can you please give a big round of applause to the over 3,000 city employees who never stopped serving our community? I also want to recognize our city manager, who has kept the state of our finances, infrastructure, and city services secure during the darkest years in memory. The city manager's tenure will be coming to an end in a few short months, and I ask you to join me in another round of applause to recognize his nearly half-century of service to the city of Cambridge. At the City Council inauguration this year, which we can all agree will forever hold the record for the coldest inauguration in Cambridge history. I'm still cold. I said that what makes Cambridge unique is our passion for confronting seemingly insurmountable challenges. We recognize when progress is made, but we will not rest while inequities persist. We hold ourselves to a high standard, and we are not easily satisfied. This drive is what often puts Cambridge at the forefront of change. We must celebrate our successes and acknowledge that Cambridge is the envy of cities across the country and the world. And yet we remain unsatisfied because our charge is to keep working until every inequity in our city has been addressed. We will not rest while there's still work to do. The pandemic showed us that we can act quickly and with authority to bring needed change faster, and pushed us to do more to address the other crises we face: the housing crisis, the mental health crisis, the epidemic of gun violence, the climate catastrophe, the education gap that persists in our schools, the income inequality. These problems all existed before the pandemic, but they've been exacerbated. And we as a council must treat them with the same heightened urgency. I want to acknowledge former Mayor and City Councilor Denise Simmons for all her work and leadership on addressing gun violence in our community. She will be hosting a Safe Streets meeting tomorrow evening for community members to hear from representatives from both Cambridge and Somerville. Gun violence is not isolated to Cambridge, and we must work both as a community and a region to protect our youth and solve this crisis. We must be proactive, not reactive to this violence. And I thank Councillor Simmons for all our efforts to bring the community together on this challenging issue. We say all the time in this body that addressing the housing crisis is the most pressing matter that this council deals with. Year after year, it stands out on the resident survey as the issue that residents identify as the biggest problem facing Cambridge. Residents come to my office almost every single day, inquiring about wait times, looking for housing opportunities, fearing eviction. We must continue to find innovative solutions to this housing crisis. Over the last 2 years, I've been inspired by some of our progress. We continue as a city to make remarkable investments in preserving and growing our affordable housing stock. There are more than 800 new affordable units under development this fiscal year, with other projects in the pipeline as well. In one of the most significant affordable preservation projects in decades, Cambridge successfully maintained the affordability of the Fresh Pond Apartments, also known as the Ringe Towers, which is where I was raised and where my family had a stable foundation for opportunity and growth. I know how meaningful every single one of the 504 units is to the community. There's no question that voting for that appropriation was the most important vote I've ever taken. Working with Ringe Associates, the city manager, and city staff to move this process forward was deeply meaningful, and I remain thankful for everyone who worked on getting that done. Additionally, just last month, Homeowners Rehab reached an agreement with Lesley University to purchase a historical Mass Ave property with funding from the city's Affordable Housing Trust. That property will be turned into affordable housing units, and I'm grateful to Lesley, HRI, and the team at CDD for their work finalizing this project. Solving the housing crisis and building our affordable housing stock will take more than just funding. We need to be creative about policy as well. As we address the legacy of redlining and historic exclusion, we need to be thoughtful about ways to get more affordable units online throughout our city. The Affordable Housing Overlay was a great first step, and I want to congratulate Justice Star for moving forward with their new street project. It will be the first one under the overlay, which will provide 107 affordable units next to green space, grocery stores, and public transit. For years, the City Council has also discussed the need to overhaul our zoning and create more opportunities for housing citywide. There have been countless conversations in the past about the need for more multifamily housing, more transit-oriented development, and more housing types, but we have not been satisfied with the progress. With that said, I'm confident that this City Council will be the one to finally initiate comprehensive zoning reform and create more housing opportunities in every neighborhood. Our housing crisis also impacts our homelessness crisis. While we have made progress in recent years, the fact remains that we have yet to scale effective solutions to the necessary extent, and we have done little to stem the tide of people newly becoming homeless. While we have created effective housing and service solutions that change the lives of those who receive them, the systematic failures remain. The result is, on any given night, more than 500 of our neighbors have no home, and a disproportionately high percentage of those experiencing homelessness in Cambridge are people of color. Last year, I convened an ad hoc working group on homelessness with the goal of crafting policy to address this problem. I'm grateful to former Mayor and Councillor McGovern, who works closely with our unhoused population, and for chairing the working group and for his persistent leadership on this issue. Let's please give him a hand over. This working group was thoughtful and diligent, and in the coming year, we will be acting on their recommendations. Our deepest gratitude goes to those unhoused individuals who offered their time and expertise through focus groups and participation on the ad hoc working group. We will never end homelessness until those who are closest to the problem, those with lived experiences of homelessness, are fully included in creating the solutions. As mayor, I've had the privilege of being the chair of the school committee. As a product of the Cambridge K-12 education system, I know education is the path to equal opportunity. I have the honor to address issues of equity and access while working alongside Vice Chair Rachel Weinstein, members Akurdi Bambi, members Fred Fantini, member Jose Luis, who's joined us tonight, member Weinstein, who's joined us, member Wilson, and our incredible student representatives, Anise Killian and Nouriel Vera de Graaf. I want to congratulate our student representatives for graduating this year and for both getting into Harvard. Anais is here with us tonight, and Nouriel is busy winning track meets. We're so grateful for their thoughtful approach, their contributions to the committee, and their desire to make student voices heard. We've also been lucky to have strong leadership during this difficult year of transition. Thank you to Superintendent Dr. Greer and Deputy Superintendent Turk, and to our deeply committed educators for all that they do for our students and our district. I also want to recognize my former guidance counselor, Larry Poirier, who is here this evening. He's right in the back. I am who I am because of my educators and my guidance counselor. Larry, you were such a big part of that, so glad you're here. We are always thinking of ways to create more equitable access in our schools. While creating the budget for fiscal year 2023, we ensured our students' voices were represented and that our outcomes led to student success. We have to systematically address the equity gaps exacerbated during the pandemic. Grade 3 achievement remains below 50% for students performing at grade level. We are making it a priority in our schools to address the achievement gaps and aim to hire additional math and ELA interventionists in each elementary school to strategically deliver individual intervention for lost learning time due to the pandemic. There is a substantial increase in social, emotional, and mental health reported by students in recent years, which has led us to use the funds to hire a social emotional learning director and an additional social worker in the high school to enhance the support our students need from the ongoing pandemic. The school committee is committed to listening and passing policies based on what we hear from students. So this is the time I want to acknowledge our CRLS Title IX Aurelia advocates who updated the Title IX policy with us to redefine language used to identify sexual harassment and to create processes for reporting sexual misconduct and filing a formal Title IX complaint. Some of the Title IX Aurelia advocates who are with us this evening. So please join me in celebrating Anna, Abigail, Molly, Kaylin, Morgan, and Nasra. They're in the back. We will be doing a full review of all our policies in the months ahead, something the school committee has not taken on in many years. We're also working with students who advocated for free Charlie cards. The majority of our students take public transit to get to school, and the cost of getting to school should not be a burden for our families or students. Creating equitable solutions for our students is what drives our work on the committee. This led us to creating the Early College Pilot in partnership with Lesley University. The Early College Pilot will have twice as many students participating next year, which will result in many more students graduating high school with college credit and college-ready skills. This pilot creates an opportunity for students who are historically underrepresented in college to get an earlier start and be able to graduate college a year sooner, helping them avoid the student loan crisis most college graduates of color face. As we discuss ways to have free college initiatives in our district, I'm confident that we'll also make progress on universal pre-K. allowing all students in Cambridge to receive free and high-quality preschool. I would like to imagine a community in which financial barriers do not result in educational barriers. While city scholarships for low-income students and families have helped, the only real solution is to make it universal. All caregivers deserve to send their child to preschool for free. I'll be forming a joint ad hoc of the City Council and the school committee that will meet throughout the year to ensure that we are moving forward towards free, high-quality, universal pre-K for all our students. Yes. We need to center equity in our education, and the launch of Liberation Libraries earlier this month helps us do that on street corners throughout the city. Liberation Libraries will serve as a free giving library stocked with an intentional selection of books written by Black and Brown authors for all ages. I want to give a big shout out to Tony Clark, who's here tonight, Ty Belletti, and the whole team at My Brother's Keeper who led this initiative and do an enormous amount of work for our city. So please join me in another round of applause for them because they do so much. We know that we engage our young people and seek ideas from our students, and great things can happen because of that. One of my priorities has been bringing climate education to our youth. This month, I've had the opportunity to visit a number of classrooms to discuss climate change and teach students how to properly recycle and reuse, and hear ideas that students have to combat the crisis. Just today, the forestry team from DPW and I were at the Baldwin School teaching first graders how to plant a tree and why trees are so important for our city. Feeling the energy and passion that our students have about climate change work is inspiring and should push us all to work harder on this issue. The City Council is committed to addressing this crisis and heightening the urgency, which is why I formed the Climate Crisis Working Group last fall, which was chaired by Councillor Nolan. We have fallen short on our climate goals, and we need to take aggressive action if we're going to meet our own standards. The charge of the working group was to increase the urgency of our climate actions and the impact of that work by providing guidance on how Cambridge can better address the climate crisis. I'm pleased to say that the report of the working group released earlier this month increases the urgency and provides a map for how we can reach the goals we know we must hit. I want to recognize Councillor Nolan for her work chairing this group and for her efforts to push us towards stronger climate policies. We all believe Cambridge can and should be a leader in climate change and climate justice. And with each passing day, it seems we learn that our timelines and goals are not where they need to be if we're going to avoid massive climate disruptions to our planet. We need to do more and we need to act faster, not just to reduce emissions in Cambridge, but to serve as an example to cities across the country and the world. This is the impetus for making amendments to BUTO, the Building Energy Use Disclosure Ordinance. I want to acknowledge Councillor Zondervan and Councillor Nolan who introduced these amendments to speed up the timelines and create accountability. And once the amendments are finalized, they will make a big impact and difference in helping Cambridge reach our net zero goals. We also won't be able to reach our climate goals until we make Cambridge a city that's safe and environmentally friendly with friendly transit options. We're making a steady progress, but we have a long way to go in making non-vehicle travel options more widely available. I had a blast last weekend at the Mayor's Bike Bonanza we hosted, where over 100 residents came to join us on a bike ride to 4 local businesses. But the fact remains that too many Canterburyans are scared to bike, and we must work hard in the coming months and years to build infrastructure that reflects the priorities of a green city. We also need to make public transit more efficient and accessible. And it is with both of those goals in mind, I convened the Fare Free Working Group earlier this year. As we look to emerge from the pandemic with an equitable and efficient transit system in place, free bus pilots could serve as an effective first step. I appointed Councillor Azim as chair of the working group, and I'm grateful for his work. We will be moving forward ahead on a fare-free bus pilot in Cambridge. As regards the state of our city, we must acknowledge that the council is tasked with hiring a new city manager in the coming months. This process started last year, and I want to recognize the phenomenal work of Vice Mayor Mallon, who chairs the Government Operations Committee, for leading the most thorough community engagement process that I've ever seen. With citywide and employee town halls, 20 small focus groups, and thousands of comments registered, the feedback we received from residents helped to develop the job description for the next city manager and will guide the council when we make a hiring decision in June. In the coming weeks, the initial screening committee will also screen applicants and select 3 finalists. So please, let's give it up for Vice Mayor Mallon. Thank you. I also want to recognize Councillor Toner and Councillor Simmons on their work on the city clerk and city auditor searches. The City Council is also responsible for hiring the city clerk and city auditor, and both Clerk Wilson and Auditor Monagle will be leaving their positions in the coming months. Please join me in another round of applause to recognize their awesome service to our city. I said we'd be clapping a lot. One of the most gratifying aspects of the last 2 years, during times of fear and anxiety, was seeing the commitment that Cambridge residents have to their fellow residents. It was not isolation that defined the pandemic in Cambridge, but generosity. Over and over again, I watched as our community jumped at the opportunity to take care of their neighbors and keep others safe. This was evident within the first month of the pandemic, as hundreds of residents and Cambridge institutions made donations to the Mayor's Disaster Relief Fund. The fund collected over $5 million that served as a lifeline for residents and small businesses during the pandemic. There's also perhaps no better example than Starlight Square and the work of the Central Square bid to turn a parking lot into an outdoor center of art and community engagement. From comedy shows to opportunity shops featuring our newest small businesses, this space has served as an example of what is possible when you give residents a chance to shine. We continue to support Starlight and celebrate the impact it has had on our city. I want to thank Mike Monestein, Nina Berg, and Matthew Boyes-Watson, who are here with us tonight. Woo! They've done such tremendous work for our city. The same is true of work that residents have taken on since the pandemic began to address inequities in our community. One example that I love is Cambridge Bike Give Back, which was launched in August 2020 by Linnell Wills and friends in reaction to the murder of George Floyd. Linnell has led the efforts to fix hundreds of old bikes and distribute them to people in the community who need one. Can everyone join me in recognizing Linnell and his uncle Mark for all their incredible work? It also never ceases to amaze me at how committed residents are to improving public open space and increasing accessibility. I celebrated Earth Day at Jerry's Pond this weekend with LOI Study Group and friends of Jerry's Pond and many other neighbors. And I'm inspired by the work that neighbors are doing to take care of this area with seasonal cleanups and community events. Eric Grunenbaum and friends of Jerry's Pond have been working hard for years to push for a vision that would transform the area. And I really look forward to working with them on fulfilling that potential. Open space has been a priority in our city, and I want to also acknowledge Councillor Carlone for all his work to expand open space and increase its accessibility. Whenever I think of open space, I think of Dennis. So. We know when we invest in Cambridge residents, great things happen. When we provide opportunities and uplift Canterbridgians is when we see our city at its best. It is that concept, investing in our residents, that birthed one of the initiatives that I am most proud of from the last year, Cambridge Rise, our guaranteed income pilot for single caretakers that gave out its first monthly cash disbursement to families last September. Research shows that guaranteed income projects have resulted in lower poverty, higher earnings, and longer-term savings. Guaranteed income has proven to be a key tool in improving economic mobility and advancing racial and gender equity. But we have a long way to go to address the disparities that exist in our city. A 2021 Cambridge Community Foundation report showed that 1 out of 8 residents is food insecure, and the average household income for our bottom 20% of earners, which is about 24,000 people, is just $13,000 a year. Of those families with children, nearly 70% are headed by a single caretaker. We've been fortunate to see RISE make a small but meaningful dent in the inequality that exists in Cambridge by investing directly in those in our community who are working 2 and 3 jobs, but still not making a living wage and giving them an opportunity to thrive. I'm happy to say that we're joined by one of the RISE recipients this evening, Portia and her daughter Rose. RISE has been a stabilizing force for Portia, and since last fall, she's been taking classes to become a medical assistant. RISE has helped her cover expenses for class, transportation, childcare, and more. Just recently, she passed the final exam to receive her medical assistant certification. And we'll be finishing the program in June. We're so glad to welcome you here tonight, Portia, and thank you so much for sharing your powerful story with us. And another congratulations to you on your upcoming graduation. RISE was a true community effort and was made possible by many partners, including Cambridge Community Foundation, Cambridge Economic Opportunity Committee, Just to Start, the Cambridge Housing Authority, Up Together, as well as Vice Mayor Mallon and Councillor McGovern. RISE showed that when we work together, we can create opportunity. This initiative was only possible with leading investments from our local universities, Harvard, MIT, the Cambridge Community Foundation, and so many others, from real estate, life sciences, business, philanthropy, and many generous residents. Many of these donors are here with us in person or on Zoom tonight. I want to thank each of you for the reason we were able to implement RISE. I have to give a special shout out to former Mayor Michael Tubbs of Stockton, who is here with us virtually on Zoom, and whose organization, Mayors for a Guaranteed Income, spurred this pilot and many others across the country. I also want to recognize Jackie Dabo, RISE's program director, who's here right now. For ensuring that this pilot has run smoothly and has run smoothly and that all of the participants have their needs met. Thank you again, Jackie. It is our obligation to do everything we can to give residents a chance to get ahead. We're a better city, a stronger city, when residents have stability. RISE helped to provide that stability. But RISE was only ever meant to be the beginning. Our commitment has always been to find a way to expand this work, ensuring that other families living in poverty in our beloved city would similarly receive cash assistance, particularly in light of the ongoing economic effects of the pandemic, which we know disproportionately affect low-income residents and residents of color. We know the scale of need in our community far exceeds the current scope of this program. As I said earlier, we will not be satisfied with the state of our city until everyone has their basic needs met. This is why I could not be more excited to announce that the City of Cambridge will be allocating close to $22 million in American Rescue Plan funding to build on the work of RISE and to provide direct cash assistance in the form of $500 a month for approximately a year and a half to every single family under the federal poverty level in the City of Cambridge. This is the exact type of initiative that makes us all proud of Cambridge, a unique, forward-thinking, anti-poverty program that will hopefully serve as an example to cities everywhere. While there are now cities around the country that are piloting direct cash assistance programs, this will be the first of such programs that is able to provide the assistance to every family that's eligible. The impact that RISE has had on 130 families in Cambridge, that life-changing, stabilizing impact will be magnified. While the details of the program are still being fleshed out, I look forward to working with our community partners to ensure the best possible implementation. We are confident that this appropriation will be a huge force in our recovery from the pandemic and in our efforts to address the inequalities that exist in Cambridge. I want to close by saying thank you. Thank you to my family and my loved ones with whom I could not do this work without. To my team in the mayor's office, Michael, Subu, Amara, Abina, Adrian. You are all so committed to serving the residents each and every day, and I'm so grateful for all of you. And once again, to all our city employees. And of course, I want to thank the residents of our beloved city who make Cambridge the best city in the world. The state of our city is strong, resilient, and a work in progress. Let's celebrate all that we've accomplished in the face of adversity and the ways in which Cambridge continues to lead. And let's not rest while inequalities persist. Thank you so much.